Morning, folks. Good day, good evening, whatever time it is for you, where you're located in the world. Again, I'm really happy to be here with you this week while Gil's teaching a retreat at IRC, our retreat center in Santa Cruz. And I think here it is, the top of the hour. And let's sit together. So I can hear you all adjusting your posture as chairs squeaking and cushions moving. So if we were in a hall together. So as I suggested yesterday, taking a posture that allows you to stay connected to your experience, whether you're sitting on a chair or a cushion or lying down or possibly standing up. That's a completely legitimate posture for meditation. Really key into what's happening in the body. Is there uprightness? Is there alertness along with a sense of relaxation? So you might just scan for tension to any of the kind of habitual places that you carry it, and see if you can let that just relax a little bit, ease up as much as possible. Those common areas in the head and neck and shoulders, the belly. Sometimes the chest can be contracted so the breath doesn't flow well. Just taking a little journey around the body to see where there's tension and seeing if that can ease up. We want a posture that really supports us being present, that supports being aware of what we're experiencing in the body and in the mind. And I encourage you just to revisit any habitually tight places in the body occasionally during the sit, just letting them soften, if possible, each time. Just becoming aware of what it's like to be sitting here, be meditating, preparing to meditate, however you think of it. Perhaps you can hear the beep beep of the garbage truck outside my house. A Tuesday morning special. And sound can just be heard. And it arises and it passes. And I invite you to let your breathing be at the forefront of your awareness for a time this morning. The rhythm of the breathing. Be a help to settling the mind, settling the body, if that works for you. Like the rhythmic aspect of the breath can help to calm the whole organism, both our minds and our bodies. Our practice of mindfulness, mindful awareness is to know our experience as it unfolds. Excuse me. And to become more and more intimate with our lived experience. To really know it, to know our bodies, to know our minds. It's quite simple. Our experience can be known just as it happens. So let the mind be awake, aware, and whatever is arising within you, whether it's bodily sensations other than the breath, sensations of breath, thoughts, emotions, movements of energy, tingling, pulsing. Just let it all be known, whatever is arising. And if you find yourself not knowing, but just lost in thought, you can always just turn the awareness back to whatever is arising. Doing it more and more closely, more and more intimately. Even confusion and distractedness can be known. They show up. The Dharma asks us to stay present. And when we get lost, as soon as we notice it, we become present again. And each time is just a simple activity of, again, knowing. Each time is simple, and over time we get lost less frequently and become present again more quickly. We're practicing staying. And as we learn to stay, our lives open up to us. We receive them. This is our life. We're sitting, we're lying down, we're standing, breathing. Body, mind, and heart all in the same place. Sensations coming from the outside, like temperature and pressure. Sensations just generated within the body. Sounds, breath, thoughts, emotions, moods. It's all here. And we can be open to all of it right now. Our practice invites us to become so intimate with our entire life, every bit of it, to know it with a kind regard. I was was looking at the chat just now. It was so nice to see the greetings, and so many names are familiar to me, and I'm seeing your names here before, of course, in the chat, and also from retreats and other programs, IMC and IRC, and also from my home Sangha here in Santa Barbara. It's a delight, really. I'm so happy again to be part of this Sangha this week. Agil's teaching at IRC. So yesterday I introduced the theme for this week, which is a list of 6 qualities of the Dharma, qualities that all point to the Dharma being empirical, being something that's evident in our experience, discoverable through practice and life experience, not something that we simply learn from hearing others or from reading books. The Dharma, it comes alive in us through our practice, through living our lives. Through paying attention to our lives, really close attention. And I said yesterday that I'd be relating these 6 qualities to a list of capacities that support what is called performative literacy, an ability to read difficult texts in a skillful way that leads to deeper understanding. So long ago, many years ago when I was young, I was in an English teacher credential program at UCSB here in Santa Barbara. And I had a professor, Sheridan Blau, who is just a very passionate supporter of investigating how people learn, especially about how people learn to read and write skillfully, and then teaching them how to do that. And over 40 years ago, he wrote a paper that is still cited today by those who train teachers. He actually still is active. He's at Columbia Teachers College now in New York City. And this paper that he wrote, it identified this series of capacities, of skills that those who are what he called successful readers of difficult texts display. And they're all ways of relating to what's being read. And I think that each of them also describes ways of relating to our experience that are really supportive of recognizing these qualities of the Dharma that we're going to be looking at. So each of us human beings on this planet could be called a difficult text. I think we're all complex beings with so many threads of conditioning that have affected the way we see and approach all of our life experience, including the way we see and approach the Dharma in our practice. And I think we are texts that are definitely, worth reading and learning and reading well. So the first 2 in the list of qualities of the Dharma are that it is well proclaimed and it's visible here and now. Well proclaimed, swakato, taught skillfully, in a way that people can relate to, in a way that they will listen to and put into practice that can serve us all the way along the path, beginning to end. Remember, good in the beginning, good in the middle, good at the end. And then visible here and now, samditiko. And so it's not just some promise about understanding the Dharma in the future, but it's accessible to those who are willing to look, who make the effort to pay attention. The Dharma is seen by us in our experience as we practice here and now. I was trying to point in the meditation to that. That's what we do. We look at what's going on within us and we see it, and we come to see it more and more clearly here and now. It's not just described somewhere, that we're to take on faith. We see it. So examples of where we see it, Excuse me. I always have a frog in my throat. It's like my continual companion now at this point in my life. So Gil one time spoke about these qualities of the Dharma using the example of having a pebble in your shoe that's causing pain with every step you take. So a pebble in the shoe, that's something pretty obvious, something that we can see here and now. And the solution, removing the pebble, is pretty obvious too, unless we're seriously distracted. We don't need a lot of mindfulness to see that problem and its solution. But more subtle kinds of pain and stress might require a bit more attention. For example, maybe I text a friend suggesting that we get together, have a meeting, see each other, and the friend doesn't respond. And then maybe some sense of being ignored or unappreciated arises, and I might make an assumption that my friend just doesn't want to see me. And then some resentment might arise out of that. And if I don't notice what's happening pretty quickly, there might also be memories of other times this friend seemed to ignore me or wasn't kind, or, all that kind of associative thinking that can happen. And I can get lost in a maze of speculation and blame. But if I'm actually looking, if I'm being mindful, I can see pretty quickly before any spinning out and recrimination or all kinds of other unproductive thought that I'm projecting meaning onto the situation. I'm making an assumption, and that assumption really is the source of the dukkha I'm creating for myself. And so there's the Dharma right there, seeing the arising of dukkha when there's resentment, when there's defensiveness, self-righteousness, impatience, any of those kind of niggling things that arise in daily life. I can see them. And when I'm mindful of resentment, for instance, sensing into how it feels quickly, it doesn't take a long time, how it robs me of my peace, seeing immediately, oh, my mood has changed. When I see the clinging, the contraction in the mind, and I'm able to let go, that's visible also right here and now. Both the arising of the dukkha and the ceasing of the dukkha are plainly visible right where they happen. And to bring in the capacities from the literacy essay, the first skill that's listed in the essay is a capacity for sustained, focused attention. So, it's pretty clear. I think the relevance of that to our mindfulness practice, to the ability to see clearly. In order to develop mindfulness, we need to sustain focus on what's arising. And Blau points out in his essay that often students who complain that they can't understand a text assume that it's because they just don't have the intelligence or the skill to understand it, when the problem is actually that they just haven't given it close, sustained attention. And this is really resonant for me in relation to seeing the Dharma here and now. I think so many of us humans are just so used to taking for granted that what we're thinking and feeling is simply how things are, the correct picture of our life. We have to be trained, and our practice trains us, of course, to look more closely. We assume without actually looking, and our practice is just, it's a training in looking more closely, looking beyond assumptions. So we learn to be more attentive, to be more mindful in order to see the Dharma here and now in our experience. And new meditators, trying to develop mindfulness, they often complain that when they're sitting, when they're trying to practice, their minds just go crazy, thinking nonstop. And often they imagine that means that they can't meditate, just like the students that Blau speaks of who imagine they can't read difficult texts. Students can have the expectation that simply being able to read should result in deep understanding, just, the simple ability to read. And meditators can have a similar expectation that simply closing our eyes and deciding to pay attention to the breath or whatever we're attending to, that staying present, staying connected, becoming mindful will just happen. But I think we all know that what's needed is developing this capacity for sustained, focused attention. And we learn to stay by coming back, of course, again and again. That's how we develop the capacity. Minds really like to think, and after 20 years, I think maybe it's even more than 20 years of web surfing and swiping left and swiping right and following links from one topic to another. Modern minds are way more distractible than they were in the past, I think. So it takes more effort to develop this capacity. But the only way to develop it is to practice coming back again and again. And another of the capacities in Blau's list that's related to this is a tolerance, a tolerance for failure, a willingness to reread and reread again. And, that's what we're doing when we often talk about cultivating continuity of mindfulness, trying to string the moments of mindfulness together, really staying present. And this is the key to that, not giving up when our mind wanders, when we're sleepy or bored, when we really would just rather go do something else. We don't give up on cultivating mindfulness because our minds like to chatter. I think it doesn't usually take too long for new meditators to recognize that it's not just in meditation that their minds are pretty much out of control. It's the nature of the mind to just do its own thing, to think and plan and react and reflect on its own time schedule. And in daily life, if we aren't engaged in some activity that requires a lot of focused attention, our minds will usually just wander where they want. But coming to realize that's the case is often a really big motivator for us, for many of us, to develop more mindfulness. Those of us, I think, here in this worldwide Sangha, we didn't give up because our minds have minds of their own, as Jack Kornfield used to say, maybe still says. Instead, we saw the need to develop steadiness, a capacity for sustained attention. And we came to recognize that the way mindfulness actually gets established in the mind is due to our willingness to fail at it again and again, to keep returning to our present moment experience, learning to stay. That's what Pema Chodron calls it. And it comes after not staying many times, failing to stay. And then the Dharma can really reveal itself to us. We recognize that it was always right here, visible here and now. We just weren't paying very good attention. And as we more and more develop the habit of paying attention, the Dharma becomes more and more visible to us. We learn to read our experience more skillfully, to become more and more intimate with it, to understand it in deeper, more subtle ways. I'd like to close this morning with a reading of something I'm sure probably a lot of you have heard it before, something that's often read in Dharma talks and Dharma situations. It's called Autobiography in 5 Short Chapters by Portia Nelson. Chapter 1. I walk down the street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I am helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. Chapter 2. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place, but it isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it is there. I still fall in. It's a habit. My eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. Chapter 4. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 5. I walk down another street. So, mindfulness allows us to see the whole and to see the way to avoid falling in. It's visible here and now, right here, right now. So that's what I have for this morning, and I thank you for your attention. And we'll continue tomorrow looking at the third and the fourth qualities of the Dharma and some skills that really support them coming alive in us. So again, thank you. Have a lovely rest of your day. See you tomorrow.